Is that going to say live on the air? Is that going to say live when we go on?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I am reconvening the meeting for Monday, January the 12th at 6 p.m. We are now going to enter into a public hearing this evening. And for the first time in my political career in 10 years, I have to declare a conflict of interest. So I will be asking my Deputy Mayor to now take over this part of the meeting. Deputy Mayor Thomas.
Thank you, Mayor Hinton, and welcome everybody to this meeting. It's a public hearing for the town of Truro for Monday, January the 12th, 2026, for 373 Roby Street, PID number 201470. This is a development agreement application. Has this been advertised, Mr. Dolter?
Yes, every mayor it has.
Do we have any correspondence to read out?
There is a letter from the Truro Planning Advisory Committee to council.
Could you read that for us,
yeah.
please?
Make sure I have the right one here, just 1 second now. So this is signed off by the Secretary for the TPAC. At the monthly meeting on November 24th, Planning Advisory Committee reviewed development agreement application for Lennox Developments Limited. The application is to permit a 4-story multi-unit residential development consisting of 44 dwelling units and 36 parking spaces on lands at 373 Roby Street. Committee concurred with staff report and the senior planner, Carla Conley, dated November 21st, 2025, and recommended the council establish a public hearing date and approve the proposed development agreement subject to the developer submitting a stormwater management plan and a landscaping plan to the town. And that's submitted respectfully by Angela Redmond, Secretary for TPAC. There's also a letter from the Heritage Advisory Committee dated December 4th, stating the Heritage Advisory Committee reviewed an application from Lennox Development Limited during their monthly meeting held on December 3rd, 2025. The revised proposal is to permit a 4-unit multi-unit residential development consisting of 44 dwelling units and below-grade parking. The committee unanimously supports the proposed development, and again, that's signed off by Angela Redmond, who also serves as the Heritage Advisory Committee Secretary.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dolter. We will start with a report from the Planning Department, and then there'll be opportunity for council to ask questions, followed by persons in the council chambers to make any comments pertaining to this development. So, Ms. Connell, would you like to begin?
I would. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Thomas. But just before we kick things off, I would like to draw the council's attention and anybody that's following along that has a copy of the report. There were 5 corrections that I'd just like to point out before we move forward. And this maybe is not super relevant at the moment, but it may be relevant in the future. This first one is in relation to staff's comments that were provided for policy UC10. There were incorrect references to the policy numbers. So the UC22 should be UC19, and the IM22B should be 22A. That's the first correction. There's only 5. The second one is in relation to policy IM20, in relation to subsection H under staff's comments. The comment was no fencing is shown. However, there is fencing shown, which you will see as we go through the graphics for the presentation. The third correction is in relation to policy UC 37. I omitted to include the third PAC meeting, which was in November. And the fourth correction is in relation to the comments, staff's comments for policy IM 22, subsection C. The town's traffic authority has received the traffic impact study and is satisfied. There was no mention of that made in the report. And the final correction I would like to draw the attention to is in relation to staff's comments for policy IM 24. The numbers with the setback in the final paragraph, it has 6 meters noted. The actual setbacks are 5.5 meters or 18 feet. So those are the 5 corrections that I would just like to draw everyone's attention to prior to going through the presentation.
Does council have any questions regarding these corrections? Councillor Graham, go ahead.
Could you please repeat the correction regarding policy UC 10?
Absolutely. So UC 10 in the staff's comments, it has listed UC 22 and IM 22B. Those actually should be referenced UC 19 and IM 22A.
Try that one more time. I don't
Sure.
think you got it.
Yep, the 2 new policies that should be referenced are
So what does policy UC 10 correctly say?
UC 19 and IM 22A are the 2 correct policy references for that.
You follow?
Okay, could you, just one more time then, sorry.
Yeah,
Our use,
UC 19
okay,
and IM 22A.
and just so that I'm clear, because I was referencing and looking at what I thought was UC 10, it's the same information, but just labeled differently, is that
Yep,
my understanding?
Yep, there's no change to the policy. It's in, the change has been in staff's comments, staff's response to the policy. That's where the change is made.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'll take a closer look.
Okay, wonderful.
Thank you.
All right. So as mentioned, this is the development agreement application for 373 Roby Street. Here we see a graphic showing the subject property. The lands are approximately just over 0.5 acres, so 0.6 acres, just a little bit less. In area, lands have approximately 30.48 meters or 100 feet of road frontage on Roby Street. Got a bit of a delay here. Off to a great start. What happened there? Okay. Lands, we skipped forward. Lands are within the urban corridor policy area. Multiple unit residential proposals with more than 12 dwelling units shall be considered by development agreement as per policy UC 49. So urban corridor is shown in the pink, general residential is shown in the yellow. Excuse our technical difficulties here. This is beyond our control at the moment. Okay, and we're back. Lands are zoned urban corridor, UC, and you also can see on the graphic, it may be a little bit challenging to see, but there is some cross-diagonal hatching that is shown that illustrates the 1 to 100 floodway fringe. You will also note that that floodway fringe does not extend onto the property, so it is adjacent to, but just outside of that area. Here we have some photos of the subject site. So this photo is taken Longworth Avenue, closer to Roby Street, where we get a visual sense of the building that is currently on the site. Here we see, this is taken from Roby Street from the opposite side. So, application status, we are now at step 4 for the public hearing. So the application was made initially, step 1. This has gone through a few iterations and it has come before Planning Advisory Committee 4 times before now. It came with an original 6-story submission. It then changed to a 5-story submission and is now at a 4-story submission, which is in front of council today. It started back in 2024 and then went through 2025, and has its final iteration was before Planning Advisory Committee, their previous meetings in March, October, and November of this year. Oh, and I will just point out that this also had gone to a public information session back on November 19th of 2025 over at the Truro Public Library. There was an afternoon and evening session where the public was welcome to drop by and have any questions answered by town staff as well as the developer and their team. So, here we have the development proposal. So this graphic is showing the site plan of the proposal. So the current site plan is shown on the left. I have also included the previous submission just for reference of the changes that have been made. So Roby Street would be at the bottom of this graphic. So you can see the physical changes in the size of the building itself on the left versus the right, and the change in the parking entrances that have been slightly modified as well. So the underground parking, again, for the current proposal left, the previous proposal on the right, the number of parking spaces has been reduced, as has the physical size of the below-grade parking podium. The previous proposal on the right, you would see it extends almost to the entire perimeter of the site. It is now shrunk quite a bit as compared to that previous submission, and has 33 parking spaces below grade as compared to the previous 46. Here we see the ground floor proposed layout. One of the significant changes, in addition to the building's size and shape changing, the significant change is that the indoor amenity space, which is shown on the bottom of the previous proposal, has been pulled from the rear portion of the building and is now proposed to be located at the front or on the Roby Street side of the building. This is significant because it was at the rear where it was surrounded by general residential properties or single-family homes. Those potential conflicts, would be spaces where the potential conflicts would be expected, have been pulled up to the front portion of the building, closer to the street. Here we see the proposed typical floor plan. As mentioned, it's 4 stories. This is the second story, so there's a mixture of 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 3-bedroom units throughout the building. Glitched again. Like selecting something. Here we see an architectural rendering of the proposed development. So we see the previous proposal on the right, that's the front, and we see the current proposal on the left, which is the front. So you see there's been a significant shift in the style that has been presented as this presentation and the development has evolved based on comments from the Planning Advisory Committee as well as the public. So the developer has really taken those on board and listened to the feedback that was given and has, which you can see graphically represented there, made a significant change to the design and the submission. Here we're seeing a view of the rear. So previous proposal, which was, in staff's opinion, very modern and contemporary in style, and then it's more traditional in staff's opinion on the left with this newer submission. And we do have the architect in the gallery today. We have the developer, the architect, as well as their construction partner. If council has any questions specific to the design of the building and anything that is contained within the proposal following the presentation. Here we get a view of the side. So this is the west elevation, the previous proposal on the bottom, the current proposal on the top. East elevation. And we have conceptual renderings. So again, we see the previous proposal on the right, the current proposal on the left. A little slightly different angle, both from Roby Street. You do see the change in that style. The renderings kind of bring it to life a little bit more. You will see these kind of wings that shoot out of the side of the building, and my cursor is moving over those. Those are actually balconies, but they are angled. So instead of being perpendicular to the lot line, they are at like a 45-degree angle for privacy reasons, which we will also get into in this presentation. So here we see another conceptual rendering of the proposal, previous on the right, current on the left. This is taken from Roby Street as well, but on the eastern side. And architectural renderings or conceptual renderings of the proposal. So with cladding materials that would be expected if and when the building is constructed. Front, and now we see the rear. And the western elevation. Okay, so again, the proposal is 4 stories in height, or 36.1 feet, 11 meters. Number of units proposed is 44. The unit mix is 26 one-bedroom units, 14 two-bedroom units, and 4 three-bedroom units. Lot coverage is approximately 53% for the building and 60% for impermeable surfaces, so that would include any paved surfaces or areas where the water cannot infiltrate. The parking has 33 spaces proposed below grade as well as 3 above grade, which equals a parking ratio of 0.81 spaces per unit, with amenity space coming out at 951 square meters in area. This would be between the pickleball court, the fitness area, as well as the private balconies for each unit. So, policy review and analysis. So staff have reviewed the town's planning documents, and this is the policy that essentially allows council to enter into a development agreement and consider this. It's policy UC Urban Corridor 49. As mentioned, it is a policy of council to consider residential or mixed-use developments with more than 12 units by development agreement. This is not alone, so council is able to do this through the Municipal Government Act. I have this slide in because there has been some comments raised from the public and submissions that were received that there seemed to be a little bit confusion as to how council makes these decisions or what staff does to provide their recommendation and what the steps are that we go through to do this. So from a high level, the Municipal Government Act essentially sets out the requirements that allows the municipality to make policy around land use and planning. And there are also provincial statements of interest that also must be followed, which include like housing, access to housing, and the other infrastructure. So those 2 really specific ones, there's 5 of them, 2 of them right now for infrastructure and housing are applicable to this application. And as well, there are community goals that are contained within the town's planning documents where it sets out what the town wishes to achieve. An inclusive community, an attractive community, a vibrant community, and all of these goals are linked back to the municipal planning strategy. And if you are to review the planning document, you'll see that they all have the little color-coded references to each of those community goals, including policy UC 49, which again allows council to enter into this development agreement and consider it, the proposal. This proposal also aligns with many of the town's planning policies, including increased residential densities nearing the downtown, new dwelling units on existing infrastructure, which is intensification versus sprawl, as well as walkable neighborhoods. So planning staff have reviewed the proposal based on the applicable policies found in the town's planning documents, which includes the town's land use bylaw. Potential issues that have been identified include the building height and scale, density, and traffic, which was raised by the public. So as part of the review, the key issues and policy considerations include the height. So the revised proposal is 4 stories or 11 meters, 36.1 feet, but varies depending on the section. So height is not measured to the peak of the building. It's the policy that height is measured mid-span. So if we're looking at a triangle, the height is measured to the middle of the triangle. So you can see, I'll move the cursor approximately where my cursor is moving, that is mid-height, and that is where that measurement is taken from. So the land use bylaw requirement, just for consideration, is listed at 11 meters. That is where the proposal falls. The established pattern of development, however, consists of single and 2-story homes that are not quite this tall. However, the architect has incorporated elements to lessen this impact, and these include the bay or inset. So a bay, also referred to as an inset, has been incorporated to break up the facade. So you see, instead of a blank wall facing Roby Street, there are 2 projections that are asymmetrical or not the same size, which actually produce that bay. So you kind of see the rendering of it is on the left, And the overhead view site plan is on the right, so you get to see where the bay is, as well as the two projections. Projections. So these serve to create visual interest on the front facade, which reduces that visual impact of a larger building, as mentioned. So the projections are also more than 5 meters deep, which creates the impression, if you are a pedestrian, it creates that sense of two separate buildings rather than one large building, and it lessens that sense of mass. The smaller sections are also more comparable to typical homes on the streetscape. The gable roof lines. So these are commonly used in traditional residential construction. The gable roof versus flat are expected to help the building blend into the surrounding streetscape. Additionally, that roof is stepped back, so there are different roof lines there that break it up, and it's staff's opinion that the perceived height of the building will be reduced by these features, the step back roofs, as any pedestrians walking by will have the impression of a 3-story building versus the actual 4-story height. There are also architectural elements that have been include the varied application of materials and colors, the incorporation of the bays and projections on all sides, as mentioned, and the belt courses. So these are there are some call-out lines here. The belt courses are these, how would I explain them? It's kind of a different application of material to break up each story. Considering the above noted elements, planning staff expect that the proposed height and scale will not pose a significant compatibility issue with the existing streetscape and the surrounding neighborhood. A shade analysis was also provided by the applicant. So it shows summer solstice, and it is challenging to see it at this scale, but the summer solstice at 8 a.m. is shown on the top left, noon is in the middle, and at 4 p.m. is shown on the right. So there's summer solstice, spring fall equinox is in the middle, and the winter solstice is on the bottom. So you get a sense of how the sun will be moving and the amount of shade that will be cast by the proposed development at the various times of year. Okay, density, as mentioned, was also a key issue or policy consideration. So the building does exceed the current density in the neighborhood. The building's ground floor footprint is fairly large and covers approximately 53% of the lot, while surrounding buildings cover between 4 to 44%. It's not entirely incompatible when you take it into the context of the existing neighborhood and the relatively low percentage of lot coverage. The proposed building is expected to appear larger because it is. Planning staff expect that the incorporation of the elements listed previously, which include the bay projections, the gable roofs, the noted architectural elements, as well as the balcony views being partially obscured by the privacy slats and angled at 45 degrees, as well as the relocation of the amenity space from the rear of the building to the front, are all expected to lessen the negative impacts of the building. Planning staff support the proposal with the elements shown and expect that any potential issues related to the height, bulk, and scale and/or density to be reduced or mitigated by the aforementioned elements. Traffic has also been mentioned, and it has been one of the most commented upon issues that we have received comments on from the public. Longworth has and continues to be used as a through fare from Roby to Prince Street. There is a school bus stop near the intersection, and parking had been, I think you were able to park on both sides of Longworth up until recently. And people were concerned about the general increase in vehicle traffic that could be caused by the proposed development. The traffic study has been provided by the developer and has been submitted to the town's traffic authority, who has provided comments. So the study mentions the amount of vehicle trips that are projected as well, but it also mentions that there should be step-backs or setbacks of obstructions, that they should be not any closer than 4.5 meters from Roby Street to ensure that site distances are maintained. These comments have also been forwarded to the developer to include in any further submissions or changes to their development, and actually they were provided previous to, and I think have been incorporated into that site plan. As part of the review and analysis, it is also sent to the various departments of the town, including fire, police, recreation, our building official, traffic authority, engineering, and the town's urban forester. There are generally no concerns with the development. The town's fire section has requested that sprinkler connection be placed at or near the front of the building to facilitate the connection. Our building official also has made note of the allowable percentages of unprotected openings, which include windows and doors, as well as the requirement for non-combustible cladding, and has confirmed that the submission meets the requirement for fire department vehicle access. The town's traffic authority has no issue with the submission. A stormwater management plan is required and will be provided if council agree to enter into a development agreement. And a landscaping plan also has been provided recently. The town's urban forester has provided some comment. Further consultation will occur. However, we can see the initial landscaping plan that was submitted. The urban forester has noted that they are happy to see that some of the native species have been included, which was a comment and a request that they had made. They would like to see some additional plantings be made around the perimeter of the building, but that is where we will have further discussion. So as part of the public participation, there is always a survey that is open, and any members of the public are invited to either provide their comments online with the feedback or directly to council or planning staff. So as of today, just before the meeting, the final results and tally, there were 141 responses that were provided to the online survey. 50% were in favor, 48% were opposed, and 1 had no opinion, as shown in the graph here. Mailouts were also sent to the property owners within 150 meters of the subject site. And as mentioned, there was also a public information meeting held at the Truro Public Library, in addition to all of the documents being available on the town's development applications website. Following the public hearing, council will make a decision either to enter or not enter into a development agreement, but that essentially closes out the 5th step of the process for the consideration of this application. In summary, it is staff's conclusion that the proposal is expected to offer a home for those looking for a place to live within walking distance of a variety of commercial, retail, and recreational opportunities, including the town's downtown, or the Truro's downtown. The proposal is expected to be a positive addition to the mixture of uses, is expected to facilitate residents using active transportation, which includes biking and walking, to access the goods and services and amenities, as well as employment opportunities, and is expected to attract those who wish to live within within a new building that contains significant amenities. So as such, it is staff's recommendation that council enter into a development agreement with the applicant to permit the 4-story multi-unit residential development with up to 44 units and 36 parking spaces on the subject land, subject to the submission and them receiving approval for a stormwater management plan and landscaping plan. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Conley. I would ask that representatives of 373 Roby Street, if you'd like to come down forward and sit at the front here and use the mic when you speak, and just introduce yourselves as well. It's important that for the record, but also that people know who's speaking to them. So you could identify yourself as the developer, as the architect, or whatever. So go ahead, please. His mic's not on, and it will be. Yes, it will.
Okay, thank you.
Start that again.
Sorry, thanks for that. So for those who don't know, my name is Ryan Johnstone. I am the owner of 373 Roby Street, along with the bank, and the owner of Lettix Developments Limited.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right. And I am Troy Scott at TA Scott Architecture, the architect of record for the project.
Nice to meet you, Mr. Scott. Have we met you before? Have you come before?
I have been here before, yes.
Okay, well, it's nice to see you then. Okay, so we're going to begin and open with questions just from council. These are questions from council. I'd ask that You have 5 minutes for questions. You could have a separate round, but only limit you to 5 minutes. In fact, we're limiting everyone to 5 minutes because we want to get out of here before midnight. And I just say that with complete respect to the process. There's been a lot of information on this process. We've gone through, the Planning Advisory Committee, really done their homework on this. This is our second development for this property. And the issues have been raised. We've gone through them. We're very aware of them. But it's important that we go through the process, and it's important that we hear from the public tonight. If you're here with comments, we want to hear from you. This is important. No one's made a decision yet. No one has made a decision yet. The decisions are made following the hearing here by council. So let's begin with questions from council, please.
My question is for our traffic control person, Mr. Bland. I directed this question to the Director of Public Works this afternoon, but he thought that you may have more additional information this evening. My question is with regard to parking on Longworth. Regardless of the success or not success of this development application, a suggestion has come from residents of Longworth that to mitigate some of the traffic or the parking congestion on their street, it would be preferred by those residents that parking happen, and I think it's the east side, but it's the side that has the sidewalk on it. And I understand you've looked at that, you're considering that, but I was wondering if you could update us on where you're at exactly with that suggestion.
Yeah, so we have looked at it. The only thing we have to be careful of is that that is the side with the sidewalk, which can create visibility concerns if there's vehicles parked in front of the sidewalk and someone pulls into the driveway and they don't see somebody walking on the sidewalk. And we also have to take into account if we restrict parking on one side, that congestion just gets moved to the other side. So we still have to be careful with that and to determine which side it goes on. So at this time, we haven't determined to restrict it, but it is something that we're looking at, and it may be on a temporary basis to see, or a trial basis to see how it works in that community. But typically, we don't restrict parking on local streets because we want public to be able to use the streets for parking to access if they have an event at their home so that they can park in front of their home or their guests can park at the front of their home.
Thank you. This afternoon, the Director of Public Works referenced artillery roads. What is the definition of an artillery road?
Arterial.
Sorry, a bit of a tongue twister for me.
That's okay. So those are
Arterial.
roads that receive traffic from the highway, typically.
Okay.
So those would be the heaviest traveled streets, which then you would go on to collectors. And then there's local streets. And local streets are the ones that are typically residential streets that would, for the most part, have lower traffic volumes than the collectors and the arterials.
Okay. So Longworth does not fall under any of those.
It's local. It's a
Okay.
local street. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Community gardens are in high demand. Have we considered a community garden at this location at all? Sorry, this is to you.
Oh, it's, I mean, not opposed to it. It hasn't been integrated to the plan yet, but not opposed.
Okay, it is one of the things that was mentioned by Parks and Rec staff, community gardens in high demand, and I've certainly heard a lot about it, so I want to make sure that that is something you're considering. Ms. Connolly, you mentioned earlier with Longworth, could park on both sides until recently, but as the discussion we just had with Councillor Graham, apparently that is not the case. We can still park on both sides, but we're considering not. Is that correct?
That would actually be a question for the town's traffic authority, Mr. Bent. I misspoke.
Okay, fair enough.
You would like to clarify, Mr. Bent?
I think we've already got the clarification from the previous question. I'm not going to waste my 5 minutes on rehashing that. Ms. Connolly, can we go to one of the setbacks? One of the slides showing the setbacks, or one of the slides showing the overhead? Preferably, we've got one with both. What was the one before that? Sorry.
What is it that you'd like to see? The setbacks on the,
Well, what I'm looking at in the package here, it shows sort of the overall shape, aerial shape of the property, and also notes the building setbacks. I don't know if that, I don't remember if we saw that in here or not.
so the presentation does vary from the report, and this would be the largest scale that I have. I can try to zoom in though for you.
If you could zoom in just a
Yeah.
little bit, but that'll probably do, because I'm looking at setbacks where we see the east side setback at 2.7 meters, the west side setback at 3 meters. Now, I think that might have been one of your corrections from earlier, but I wanted to make sure that I had this correct, because what I'm seeing is that the building is wider at the front and then tapers off possibly behind the amenity spaces.
Yes.
And is narrower. So I am assuming, but I hate to assume, that the setbacks are based on the narrowest part. Is that correct?
Yes, the setbacks that were noted in the report. If the section that you're referencing is at the beginning of the report where they're kind of, it's on page 2, it's at the bottom where it says building setbacks.
Yep.
Yes, those setbacks are at the front of the building where it is at its most widest point. And then you are correct, the building narrows and the setbacks actually increase.
Do we have the numbers for that setback increase?
We do. On the eastern side, at the rear, it's 5.5 meters. And on the western side, at the back, it's 5.4 meters.
5.4. Okay, so and that would align with where the urban corridor meets general residential, I would assume, or is it? I think it tapers off before it reaches the property line with general residential, I
I can
think.
show you exactly. We see this. So, well, we have the map here. So you can see where the urban corridor zone is. The orange are the general residential properties. So immediately to the west, that property is zoned urban corridor. The property immediately to the rear or the north, and then the properties along the east, except for the property that's immediately adjacent on Roby Street, those ones are general residential. So essentially, the building does extend back and travels. It's adjacent to those general residential properties. Yeah.
Right, so but the building would taper prior to reaching the adjacent general residential properties to the east, correct?
I don't have a slide that actually shows that. So
Okay.
it does appear to do so. I don't have a slide to graphically show that.
Okay, it does, and that's what I'm just trying to clarify, is that it does seem to appear that way, and I'm hoping for confirmation.
And I can confirm that it does taper by that point. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Regarding the clarifications earlier, wonder if we could go over a couple of those really quickly again, just to make sure. I tried to make note of the ones that I wanted to follow up on, but there was a couple I think
Sure.
I might have missed.
Okay.
And again, just because it's important, because I would have done my research on what was presented, not what was corrected, and I'd like to be able to have a chance to look at what was corrected to
Absolutely.
make sure. There was one where we had UC 22 and UC 22B were referenced, and that should have been UC 19 and 22A. That one I have. Can you quickly list the other 4?
Yep. Yes, definitely. So another correction was I missed at policy. This is page 16 in reference to comments, staff's comments for UC 37 at the top. I missed including PAC's November meeting. That's one of the corrections.
Okay.
Then we have on page 20, at the 2/3 down, in policy IM 20, subsection H, the comment is that no fencing is shown. However, clearly in the graphics that were submitted, there is fencing shown.
Okay.
And we have a comment in reference, it's on page 22 in reference to policy IM 22, subsection C, that the town's traffic authority has yet to comment. However, they have commented and they are satisfied with the submission. And finally, the correction was to those setbacks that you were just mentioning. That's policy IM 24, and the final paragraph. The setbacks that are mentioned are 6 meters. It actually should read 5.5 on the eastern side.
Great. Thank you.
Ms. Conley, just in reference, because it was brought up about the setbacks, can you just comment on the setbacks relative to the bylaws of the urban corridor zone? Does it meet all those criteria? I know we're dealing with a development agreement, and it doesn't have to, but I want to know how close it is to what's required as of right in the urban corridor. If you could just speak to that, please.
I can. So again, just referencing Councillor McGrath's comments with the setbacks and the tapering back, there is a policy that is in the land use bylaw. There's a subsection that requires an increased setback from a property when, and this is the correct slide to view that, when a property abuts, it's in the urban corridor, but it abuts a general residential. There is an required setback of 6 meters. The building as presented does not meet that. It's 5.5 meters on that eastern side.
Okay.
So it does not meet the required 6. However, and that would be the point where it doesn't meet the required setback. It does meet the rear. And all of those are actually noted in the report too with the building setbacks.
Right, and since I build with feet and not meters,
Oh.
we're about 2 feet short, are we not correct?
Right, so the 6 meters is 19.7 feet and the 5.5 meters is 18 feet.
Yeah, so 2.5 feet. Thank you very much. Okay.
Maybe less than that.
Less than that, okay. Other questions from councillors, please?
Ms. Conley, I'm looking at the little diagram here, and I'm not really good at visualizing how far the building goes back to the end of the lot. Does it go right to the back, or?
Let's see if I can bring up. So you can see I have a site plan graphic if you're looking at your screen right there. So you get a sense of where the building is. The lot itself is not a perfect rectangle. It kind of...
So it goes right back to the very back of it?
It's 8.5. So at the left corner, I'll move my mouse.
Okay,
so
yep.
See where my mouse is? That's 8.3 meters.
Okay.
And then it increases on the eastern side. That's 10.7 meters. The setback distance.
Okay. Meters, not feet.
Meters, not feet. Did you want the conversion on that? I know, I have it right here. That's why I brought my calculator. So the 8.3 meters is 27.2 feet, and the 10.7 meters is 35 feet.
35. And what was the other one?
27, let's see. 27.2 meters, or feet, for the 8.3 meters.
Okay, thanks.
Any further questions from council at this time? Okay, we're going to move to the gallery now, and what will happen is we'll hear from people in the gallery, and then following that, we'll have more questions from council in response to perhaps the comments that were made. So we're looking for comments from the gallery, and we have 3 that have been identified as speakers. That doesn't mean that nobody else can speak, but 3 have already said that they'd like to speak, and I hope I get the pronunciation right, is Lee Poirier, Robert Poirier, and Emily Riley. And so I will start with Lee Poirier, if you'd like to come down and speak. And you can, perhaps the developer, Mr. Ryan and Mr. Scott, you could step aside. They could come down and present, and you'll be available for answers, right? How are we going to do this, Mr. Dolter? Because they aren't mic'd and they'll be mic'd. So what's the? How are we going to?
Do we have the portable mic?
If we have the portable mic, perhaps you could give it to the developer and they could just hold on to it. Thank you very much. Go ahead. And just introduce yourself for all of us, but also for the record. Thank you.
Yes. Good evening. My name is Leah Poirier. I'm here tonight to formally request that you vote against the proposed multi-unit residential development at 373 Roby Street. My recommendation is grounded in clear non-compliance with Truro land use bylaws that pertain to the development in urban corridor that abuts residentially zoned properties like mine. A no vote will protect our community from negative impacts this development will impose. As elected officials, council's role in this matter is not simply procedural. You are entrusted with safeguarding neighborhood livability, protecting residents' rights, and ensuring that development occurs in a manner consistent with policies and the municipal strategy and to support public interest. Based on the current Lennox Developments Limited Planning Document Step 3, the proposal fails to meet bylaw obligations related to building height and massing, lot coverage and site intensity, abutting yard setback requirements, as well as site plan criteria and urban corridor, which state new structures shall minimize negative impacts on the surrounding neighborhood, including noise, dust, fumes, lighting, shadows, or other nuisance or inconvenience to occupants or nearby residences. In my letter dated January 10th, I gave the example that there will be 38 windows and/or balconies and glass doors on both the east and west sides of this building, and 27 at the rear in this new structure, which would negatively contribute to noise, light, and nuisance to me as the rear property owner of this location. Perhaps the most harmful impact the proposed development would have on existing residents pertains to its relationship with the floodplain. No transparent stormwater management plans have been shared by the developer. Construction on this plot will take away the environmental benefits and control of groundwater provided by approximately 8 mature 50-year-old trees that will be destroyed. It is very reasonable to assume that inserting a massive amount of concrete for underground parking will change, challenge, and devastate the existing water table, soil permeability, and modify topography. Although 373 Roby Street is not in the floodplain itself, there are 39 dwellings within a few hundred meters of this plot of land that are at risk. Therefore, it has potential to cause harm to dozens of families and hundreds of people, including my own. A precedent has already been set for denying a planning agreement at 373 Roby Street. A smaller but somewhat similar planning proposal was denied in order to protect our residential community based on incompatibility, traffic, infrastructure, and stormwater impacts, and adverse effects on adjacent property owners. Approval of this development proposal, despite clear bylaws deficiencies and expected neighborhood harm, would set a precedent that undermines both land use bylaws and public confidence. The final thing I present to you is deeply personal to me and my family. One of the reasons my husband and I chose to live at 90 Churchill Street was because of the seclusion and privacy offered to us by being at the end of a dead-end street. This was essential for meeting the needs of our autistic son, whose brain cannot tolerate auditory input at the same level as typical brains. His hearing is acute. It's very sensitive to things in his environment. Sudden and unexpected noises are the worst for him. Our home is his sanctuary. It's his safe place in the world that does not offer enough supportive environments for people with auditory processing difficulties. The construction phase of such a development would be catastrophic to his well-being. And we are fearful of what it would do to his physical and mental health. I respectfully recommend Council deny final approval of the proposed development at 373 Roby Street. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Poirier. Yeah, an excellent letter. I just want to thank everybody who's going to speak tonight from the gallery. You know, I'm impressed with your passion for your neighborhood and for your town, you know. And yeah, our neighborhoods are precious. And I know my neighborhood, you know, at different times, you know, we've felt, you know, we don't want this or that. And it's a concern, right? And so I want to know that you're heard. And in particular, could someone answer that question about the hours of construction? Just if it is approved, I want you to be aware of the hours of construction to perhaps help protect your son. So could you just speak to that, please? Just, I'm not saying it's going through, but if it went through for protection for her son, when are those hours of of construction.
Yep, we're just gonna get the
I think
specifics.
some
We were
seven,
just-
and it's a long day, but we just want to check that out.
Yeah, the town has some bylaws. We don't usually include that in the development agreement itself.
I know,
because
but
the
then
town
it's a
has-
special case here, just for information, that's all.
Well, there's a construction bylaw and a building bylaw that the town already has. The heavy machinery is limited. We just had this conversation with our building official, and I think it was 8 a.m. that you cannot start with a heavy machinery until 8 a.m. Construction can start prior to that, as early as 6:30. Unlikely, but they are able to do that. Or is it 7? 7 a.m. 7 a.m. till 10 p.m. And heavy machinery usage is limited.
Okay. Okay, so you should be aware of that if it goes ahead, so you can help protect your son. Okay, could we hear from the next person? Thank you very much for your presentation. Yeah, thank you very much. You have okay, could you come back, please? Yeah, I was thinking we'd have questions when we were all done, but we're going to take questions as we go through. I think that's brilliant. Yeah, go ahead. Thank you. I'll get you speaking here, yeah. Go ahead.
Thank you. It wasn't for Ms. Poirier, but it's in relation to what she's brought up. I was wondering, Ms. Connolly, are you able to tell us how many homes border the proposed development?
I have that. I'm gonna have to flip through. Thank you, Chief Curry. Let's see here. So, within the block, let's say we're bordered by Hingley and George Street, and then on the opposite side, those are the numbers that you're looking for?
If you have them available, that would be helpful.
I do. I have the number of buildings, and then I have the number of actual units within each building. So on the north side of Roby Street, between George and Hingley, there are, and this doesn't go back to Churchill, it just is kind of, my map is restricted to the front portion. So we have 6 buildings physically on Roby Street between George and Hingley. And then there are 3 buildings back on Hingley. So from or 2, I guess, excluding that one on Roby Street, but it faces Hingley. And then another 3 shown on George Street, in addition to the one that's on Roby Street on the corner of George and Hingley. Does this make sense? Let me move to another map that you get a better sense of what's there. Because this is a great map that shows it, Councillor Graham, where you can see physically the buildings that are there.
Are those all single-dwelling homes?
No, there are a mix of single homes. Some of them have been converted to 2 units. There is the big building on the corner of Longworth and Roby Street it has 40 units in it. That's 40. But then the other buildings on the west and eastern side of that are single unit buildings, single family dwellings. And I don't have the numbers for what the unit count is on the back on Churchill. My counts are restricted to the immediate area surrounding the subject site.
Okay. So I don't know. I'm just counting quickly, roughly. Like there are 23 units. Is that what are you seeing? I counted 23. 23? Yeah. Okay. 23 units, but some big ones in there. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from council? Okay. Could the next speaker come down, please? It's Robert Poirier. And Robert, you'll have to turn on the mic just by pressing the button. Thank you. And see if I can get you going.
Good evening.
Okay, one moment. I'll get you going. You're on now.
You hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Robert Poirier. I have resided at 90 Churchill Street for well over a decade and a half. And much like my wife, I have prepared a statement for council that I would like to read this evening.
Go ahead.
I'd like to start this evening by thanking you for the opportunity to speak. I know that these opportunities don't come along every day, and I certainly value the time that you've allowed for residents to speak. The Council's role under the municipal planning strategy is not simply to enable growth, but to manage it in a way that is orderly, compatible, and protective of existing neighborhoods. The town's municipal planning strategy is very clear on this responsibility, and it is a strategy which is not only shared by the town of Truro, but many other municipalities across the province of Nova Scotia. The Municipal Planning Strategy Policy 2.3.1 establishes that new developments must be compatible with surrounding land uses and should reinforce rather than undermine established neighborhood character. Now, when I look at the renderings from the diagram that were presented in the presentation this evening, I have to wonder, has anyone actually been to that neighborhood? Because that structure is not reflective of the character of homes that surround this development or this proposed development. Municipal Planning Strategy 2.3.3 further directs council to consider the scale, massing, and intensity of the new development where it abuts lower density residential areas. The argument that has been made in previous sessions is that urban corridor zoning enables consideration of higher density, but it does not override the council's obligation to refuse proposals that undermine neighborhood character or impose disproportionate impacts. And that is a term that the Utility Review Board takes particular interest to. In this case, the proposed 4-story high-density development at 373 Roby Street is being introduced into a neighborhood characterized by 1- and 2.5-story homes. The scale and density represent a substantial departure from the existing built form and raise precisely the compatibility concerns these policies are intended to address. And it was these concerns which caused the last development approximately 13 years ago, my memory may be a little bit foggy, to be denied. And that development was of a much smaller scale than what is being proposed here. Council is also directed under Municipal Planning Strategy 2.5.1 to ensure that the development does not create disproportionate negative impacts on adjacent properties, including impacts related to traffic, parking, noise, privacy, and overall residential amenity. The impacts anticipated here, parking spillover, loss of privacy, shadowing, increased noise, and light intrusion, are not speculative in nature. They are foreseeable outcomes of introducing this level of intensity into this location. The hard fact is that the discussion of mitigation strategies confirms that impacts exist, no matter how they are softened by town reports. In the case of floodplain concerns, I would like to stress that engineering compliance does not eliminate residual risk. It is also important to reference the Council's recent decision to deny development at 1 West Prince Street. In that case, Council determined that the proposal's scale and massing were incompatible with the surrounding neighborhood and the impacts on nearby residents were excessive. The decision was grounded in the same municipal planning strategy principles now before the Council this evening. The parallels between West Prince Street and 373 Roby Street are clear. Both involve proposals that significantly exceed the prevailing neighborhood scale. Both introduce densities well beyond their surroundings, and both concentrate negative impacts on residents. Applying different outcomes to materially similar situations risks undermining the consistency required by the Municipal Planning Strategy Policy 1.1.6, which emphasizes predictable and transparent application of the planning policy. Council has obligations under Municipal Planning Policy 2.1.4 to protect established neighborhoods from development that would erode livability or residential stability. These policies recognize the existing residents should not bear unfair share of costs of growth, particularly where there is no corresponding community benefit. The proposal for 373 Roby Street, while it has a lot of window dressing, does not meaningfully benefit the offset of its impacts. 44 developments, and the head count exceeded that in terms of the number of properties that would be negatively impacted. We are now in a zero-sum or a negative-sum equation where the potential benefit is being shadowed by its impact. It does not provide affordable housing, nor does it introduce amenities accessible to the broader neighborhood. The costs are localized on the backs of existing residents, while the benefits are private to Lennox developments. Council's responsibility tonight is not to decide whether development should ever occur on Roby Street. It is to decide whether this proposal, as presented, satisfies municipal planning strategy and the intent of the land use bylaw. By denying the development at 1 West Prince Street, Council reaffirmed its commitment to compatibility, to neighborhood protection, to consistent application of the policy. And I respectfully submit that the same municipal planning policies and the same planning logic and the same responsibility be applied to 373 Roby Street. I urge the Council to uphold the intent of the municipal planning strategy, act consistently with its recent decisions, and protect the character and livability of this neighborhood by denying the final approval of the proposed development at 373 Roby Street. I hope I was under 5 minutes.
Yeah, you were fine, yeah.
Thank you
That's
for
a
your time,
guideline,
Steve.
sir. That's a guideline, sir, so that we're not here. I just, thank you very much for your presentation. Can you just hold off and see if there's any comments or questions regarding your presentation, sir? Is there anyone on council that would like to make a comment in that regard? Hold it.
Graham.
Oh, Council Graham's first, sorry.
I'm wondering, I'm not a lawyer, and anything I know about the law really came from Law and Order. So my question via the chair to our solicitor is, in the cases of development applications, and if it were to come before it's no longer called Utility and Review Board, but it's called Regulatory and Appeal Board, does precedence matter?
In terms of appeals that come before the Regulatory and Appeal Board? Well, the board will always look at each case independently because no two proposed developments are the same, and municipal planning strategies vary from municipality to municipality. So there's not a lot of precedential value from looking at previous decisions of the Regulatory and Appeal Board, or the UARB as it used to be. It's not as though this was decided this way on a particular development, so therefore other cases must be decided the same way. Every case is looked at individually.
Even if the address is the same?
Well, the address might be the same, but the development proposal is not going to be the same.
Okay.
And if we're talking about, in this case, I understand there was a proposal 13 years ago, that would have been under the previous municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw. So there would have been different considerations at play just based on that alone.
I understand. Thank you for the clarification.
I guess I'm in the same ballpark because it was my understanding that development agreements are one-off and that they do not set precedents. So from the planning department, that's what I've always been instructed. So is my interpretation correct?
I think that would be another question for our solicitor, actually, for regards to precedents and development agreements.
Yeah, and I guess I'll probably just repeat myself, but because each site, each proposal is different, then, yeah, there's limited value in looking at, well, here's what we decided over here on you know, Pleasant Street, and here was what we decided 2 years ago on Queen Street. There's not a lot of precedential value in that, or because each one is evaluated on its own merits.
Just a comment, Mr. Poirier. You said that a previous development many years ago, I don't know how many years ago, before my time, was made, and it was turned down by that council. And I just want for you to know, and just for the record, the zoning has changed. In fact, if this project came under that zoning, it would also be turned down. But the zoning has changed. That property is now under urban corridor, which is a higher densities zoning. That's why this is being even looked at. So that's just for a point of clarity, you know? Okay? So any other questions? Okay, one moment, go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Poirier. Could you just go back to the beginning of your speech there? I just wanted to, I was trying to look them up on the fly, but I think I caught the wrong numbers. Just you were referencing parts of the municipal planning strategy, and I think it was municipal planning strategy, not land use bylaws, correct? Can we get his mic on?
Municipal Planning Strategy 2.3.1 and 2.3.3.
His mic should have been on.
Okay, and then there was a 1.1.6 in there somewhere too, I think? Or 1.1.1.
You were paying attention.
I
That's
was trying.
further down towards the bottom. So there is Municipal Planning Strategy 1.1.6, which emphasizes predictable and transparent application of planning policy.
Okay, I'm going to use some of my 5 minutes here to just looking for this because I have it open here. This is, no, that one's land use bylaw. Experiencing some of that delay that Ms. Connolly was experiencing as well. Because I'm just trying to look them up and make sure, because when I went, I thought I had the right numbers, and it sounds like I did, but I did not find what I was looking for when I searched for them to align with what you were saying, and I'm trying to
Fair enough.
make sure that I'm aligned with what you are presenting.
Councillor McGrath, we are having the same issue that they don't align actually. So I'm wondering if maybe you were referencing a previous planning document for the town, Mr. Poirier, because 2.3.1 in the town's current municipal planning strategy actually talks about the accessibility plan.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering, or is it the land use bylaw potentially that you're looking?
I looked at the land use bylaw as well, Ms. Connolly, and I did not see.
Right.
If I look up 2.3.1. I get illustrations on interpretation of, whoops, and now it's gone.
Respectfully to council, while I may have misquoted my subsections of the document, it does not undermine the spirit with which the
Absolutely
comments
not.
are.
Well, no, and
You were heard loud and clear.
Yeah, you were absolutely heard. It's just I would like to be able to reference exactly what it was you were
enough.
referencing. So I don't know if we have that older document or if there's a way to help us see that alignment for Mr. Poirier's concerns.
Well, we would be applying previous planning policy to a current development application, which would be unfair because the developer is applying under the town's current planning documents. So,
Yeah.
and we don't carry the old ones. They're like out of sight, out of mind. We're in the current documents now. is what we have.
Understood, but I'm imagining that the points referenced in the old planning document may also exist in the new planning document, just in
They
a
may.
different section, and this is where I'm trying to
Correct. So,
to get at.
Mr. Poirier, it was regarding compatibility. Was that the first 2.3.1? Is that the reference?
I think he's referring to
Hold
policy. Sorry. I think I have them,
You have them.
and I believe.
Okay, I don't know why that's not going.
Mr. Poirier, you can correct me if you think I'm wrong. I believe he was referring to IM 22 and UC 10. IM 22 deals with compatibility. Is that
Correct.
And UC 10 talks about complementing or enhancing the established neighborhood. Are those the two that?
Those are the two that I am referring to.
Yeah. So they are IM 22 and UC 10.
And you can confirm that, Ms. Connolly?
I can confirm that, and I also, council will have the benefit of staff's comments directly in relation to those policies in the staff report. So those policies are noted in the staff report as well as staff's position on that, on each of those.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Graham, were you able to have a cross-reference for 1.1.6 as well, since you're on a roll over there?
No.
Okay.
I didn't get that far, but I did get those two.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to welcome anybody from the gallery who'd like to come down and speak. Emily, hi. Would you like to come down, please, Ms. Riley? And of course, after we've introduced you, could you reintroduce yourself for the record? And we're good. You're good to go.
Testing? Okay. My name is Emily Riley. I live at 28 Hingley Avenue. I am here tonight on behalf of the residents whose properties directly abut the proposed developments on 373 Roby Street. I believe that most of you received 2 submissions from me before this meeting. One was just a clarification point based on a conversation that I had with someone at the Nova Scotia Regulatory and Appeal Board, which is how I happen to know what the name of it is, which was excellent, and I believe that Councillor Graham forwarded that to everyone who had not received it. And then also I have a report that I sent to everyone today, yesterday or Saturday, and I believe that those have been received as well because I received comments back from most people. My comments today are based on that, but they are also based on my personal experience. The land use bylaws are not merely suggestions. They are established legal standards designed to protect the property rights and the quality of life of Truro residents. These regulations, specifically the building height limits and the required setbacks, provide a necessary buffer for general residential properties when a large development moves in next door. These laws exist to guarantee physical separation, privacy, and sunlight for existing neighbors, not to serve as a starting point for development negotiations. I want to specifically address a sentiment mentioned in many previous planning committee meetings. The idea that because 373 Roby only abuts a few general residential properties, upholding these requirements is somehow less necessary. I suggest exactly the opposite. Nowhere in our bylaws does it suggest there is a minimum number of properties that must be affected before a bylaw applies. The protections afforded by our zoning are not strength in numbers, reached by a quorum of neighbors. They are individual rights guaranteed to every property owner in this town. Whether a development affects 1 neighbor or 50, the law remains the standard. A development agreement is a request for an exception to those rules. As explained to me by the Nova Scotia Regulatory and Appeals Board, when I reached out to possibly pre-plan for an appeal, exceptions to town bylaws should only be granted to exceptional developments, specifically because there is an exceptional need or because the property is an exception within its zone. The examples given to me were urban corridor properties built at a far end of a property where no privacy would be expected, or where a large swath of trees protects an urban corridor property from a general residential property. In our view, this proposal is not exceptional. It is a request to provide residents with less protection than what is already guaranteed to us by the town's own bylaws. This proposal fails to meet the basic protective standards of our land use bylaws in several critical areas. Regarding height, section 5.2.3 of the bylaw is clear. Any portion of a building within 14.7 meters of a general residential zone must not exceed 11 meters. Although we heard from Planner Connolly that the building measurement standard was to 11 meters, I would suggest that in our bylaws it does not state that. It specifically states any portion of a building. This development is 13.3 meters high. That means that it does not meet the 11 meter standard as set. It asks for an exception. On top of that, even if the building was the furthest possible distance from a residential zone, the absolute maximum height allowed by law in our town is 13.2 meters. This application exceeds even that absolute limit. I understand we are talking about centimeters, but those centimeters matter when those are protections in bylaws for me as a general residential property owner in the town of Truro. As well, the town's bylaws mandate that council ensure that any new development is compatible with adjacent structures. Under policy IM 22 of our municipal planning strategy, specifically referenced in the bylaws, council must evaluate compatibility in terms of scale, lot coverage, and density. This project fails these requirements. The proposed density is 183 units per hectare, which is a staggering departure from the surrounding neighborhoods where densities range from 3.5 to 40 units per hectare. Lot coverage in our neighborhood maxes out at 40%, even including impermeable surfaces. This proposal has a building coverage of 53%, and it rises to 60% when including all the impermeable surfaces. Without restricted scale and height, this extreme density creates a significant and oppressive looming effect for everyone living next to it. Additionally, policy UC 18 dictates that intensification must result in minimal risk of land use conflicts. Placing a high-density 44-unit complex with increased height immediately adjacent to single-family homes creates a permanent conflict regarding noise, lights, and privacy. Regarding the legal framework for tonight's decision, we recognize the difficult position council is in when navigating these complex situations. We want to emphasize that your authority to deny this agreement is well supported by the Municipal Government Act, provided the decision reflects a reasonable interpretation of our planning strategy. We believe that choosing to uphold our neighborhood's character and the intent of our bylaws is a legally sound and defensible position that aligns with your promised mandate to our community. We are not opposed to development. We simply ask that the developer be required to build within the existing limitations and protection of the urban corridor zoning that abuts general residential. Upholding these standards is a defense of the town's planning strategy and the rights of the resident who live here. We trust council will make the right decision for the stability of our neighborhood. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Ms. Riley from council? Go ahead.
Hi. Through you, the chair, to Ms. Connolly. I have two questions, well, one for Ms. Connolly and one for Ms. Riley. The first, Ms. Connolly, I have a feeling when we're measuring the height of a building, there may be some technicalities that we as the general population are unaware of, how they're actually measured or not measured, and I was wondering if you could go through that with us so that we are all on the same page there regarding the height.
I did mention it briefly at the beginning of the
I did
presentation.
hear that.
Yeah, and we can definitely talk about it. And I put up a graphic on here that kind of illustrates that, what I'm going to talk about, or what, to answer your question. So when the height of a building or a structure is measured, we measure mid-span. So you see that this has a gable or a triangular shaped roof. The measurement is not actually taken to the peak of the building for height. It's measured mid-span, so like halfway down the triangle. So my cursor is moving. They've already noted it on the plan, and that height is 11 meters, 36 feet.
And is that a standard that comes like through what regulatory body or what, like, is that something we've designed to measure that way, or is it something that, I don't know, professional developers have determined is appropriate?
Yeah, that's how we in the town, that's how we as development officers, when we review these applications, that's how we take the measurement. I'm not sure what other jurisdictions do or how they take the measurements in the past, but it is my feeling that it is pretty common to do so.
Okay.
If it were a flat roof, it would be taken to the peak of the roof, but this is a gable roof, so it's measured, the measurements changed based on the roof type.
Okay. Thank you. My second question is to Ms. Riley. Could you repeat the numbers that you referenced when you talked about density?
Certainly. They actually came directly from Planner Connolly's report.
Oh.
So I can reference them if you need me to.
If you wouldn't mind, I was trying to write them down, and yeah.
So the proposed density of this development is 183 units per hectare. And the rest of our neighborhood is anywhere from 3.5 to 40 units per hectare.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor McGrath.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The quiet handoffs are throwing me off a little bit this evening. And thank you, Ms. Riley, for your presentation. But I actually have a question for Planner Connolly. We're looking at this, the height and these measurements. Now, I understand that because it's a gable roof, it's less. It's taken mid-span to allow for that slant. So it's not as if it's right. Kind of if it was a as same as if it was a flat roof at that 11 meters, I guess, is sort of how that's intended. But what is the setback of that 11-meter height from the neighboring properties? Because I think that's also an important thing too, because we're talking about the setbacks. I know if you were so close, but I don't see those numbers here in this plan. Perhaps it's something that I've overlooked, but I did not see it when I was going through.
Let's see if that's illustrated on one of these site plans. So they do have and again, I may run into difficulties when I zoom in. Let's try the best here. Oh, God. Okay. So you can see the rear setbacks pretty clearly. The building setbacks, there are some setbacks noted. This is not going to the building though on this one. I'm going to try to move it without having it glitch. Let's see if this works. Okay, so far so good. So the roof, you see the different roof lines. So this is the 11 meters. There is a substantial setback from the Roby Street frontage. So the tallest roof gable is an increased setback where my mouse is moving here. And that's, you want a number for that? Is that what you're asking? Like how far from the side?
I'm more concerned about the side setbacks.
So it's 5.5 where it starts.
So
5.5
the
meters.
same setbacks that we were talking about before for the side of the building, the roof aligns with that side fairly perfectly, or within millimeters, I guess. And so that's 5.5 meters back to 11 meters high. Is that correct?
5.5 meters from the eastern setback, and the roof would start above that, 11 meters midspan.
Well, I'm looking at some of the developer team, and I think I'm seeing some heads nodding that it sounds like they're agreeing with me. But if
The
they wanna
architect may be able to put this in more clear terms. I'm not sure to put you on the spot.
That's what they're here for, to be put on the spot.
Can you hear me?
Not yet.
I have a green light. Should I have a red light? Okay.
There we go.
All right. So, the setback is to the building footprint, and so that's where it's at the 5.5. But there would be
some overhang,
an eave overhang, as well as there are some bays that are bumping, but that's above.
So we could say 5.4, 5.3.
It's 5.5 is the setback.
Well, just I'm thinking about the roof edge. That's the point where we're going to see sort of that conflict, I guess.
Well, and it's bumping in and out based on the design. So, on average, we are within that 5.5 if you averaged it out, because there are certain parts that are actually set further back.
Okay, but we know there's overhang, so I'm going to call that 5.3 then. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McGrath. So is any other questions? I got a question. Well, not yet. We'll just hear just in regards to this, and then we'll open it up for more questions and comments. So thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess where I'm wrestling a little bit is the presenters, at least two of the presenters, had used the phrase non-compliant. I'm wondering, is that a matter of interpretation? Because from the planning department, I'm not getting that perspective. So if you could answer that question, please.
I sure can. So there are, correct me if I'm wrong, Director Fox, but there's over 300 policies in the town's municipal planning strategy. There may be more than that. It is our job to go through them and apply the policies that are relevant and applicable to each individual application that comes before council. So the policies that we feel are applicable are obviously being disagreed with by the residents of the community, and that's to be expected. Our job also is to take a broader view of like what is good for the town, and that's how these policies were developed, by looking at an overall perspective for the town. What is good growth and development overall for the areas? And there is actually some really good wording around that, and it's referenced in the report, but it is within the preliminary blurb of the urban corridor section, where it really lays out what the expectation is for the urban corridor zone and policy area. And everybody can reference that. It's section 4 of the municipal planning strategy, where it's basically saying that I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it is saying that the traffic and activity along these routes, which are the collector roads, so Roby Street is one of them, are the areas that are typically less appealing for low-density residential uses and better suited for more intensive residential uses. And then it talks about managing conflicting land uses and over-separation of land use and the growth of vibrant and accessible places that feature a mixture of uses that complement one another. So while there are over 300 policies, not all of them apply, but also even the applicable and relevant policies, no development that I've seen meets all of those either. So there will be, but our job is to assure council that the development proposal meets most of them, or to make note of where they don't. And that is also contained in staff's report and was presented mostly here in the presentation, or has been fleshed out through our conversation and the questions. Does that answer your question, Councillor Talbot?
Yes, it does. And I'm just going to make a statement that may be proper, may be unpopular, but it seems to me the disagreement here is, in my opinion, much more centered around the zoning than this particular development, because the zoning does allow a lot of the things that are being presented here.
So, Councillor Talbot, if we could hold our comments perhaps until the motion is read, but right now we're just dealing with questions, so I appreciate that. Appreciate that comment. You could repeat it again perhaps during the time of the motion. Ms. Riley, I was just wondering, and I'd like the solicitor, Mr. Thompson, just to speak briefly about this idea of exceptionality, and because that's a big point that you brought up, you know, the exceptionality in regards to the bylaws, and particularly, you know, like how close or how high, these are the things that you mentioned, and, you know, the restrictions that you're stating are in the provincial act. So I'd just like the solicitor to address that, if he could, please.
Sure, thanks, Deputy Mayor. And planning staff could probably answer this as well as I can, or perhaps better, so I'll let them weigh in as well. But in this scenario where developments on this site like this are allowed to be considered by way of development agreement, then it really is a matter of going through the policies, as Ms. Connolly indicated, and applying the policies to the proposed development. So it's not a matter of, in my opinion, that there needs to be some sort of exceptional circumstance to justify approving a building by way of development agreement. It doesn't need to be an extreme circumstance to justify approval by development agreement. I think that the planning staff has gone through the applicable policies, outlined where there are no concerns, where there are concerns, and they've given their assessment that overall it does meet with the requirements, and they recommend approval. And I don't think there's anything extraordinary or unusual about that in this case.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you very much, Mr. Riley. Is there any other questions for you, or would you like to make a further comment?
Can I just clarify?
Yes, please.
So the clarification of the conversation I had with the Regulatory and Appeal Board was on the basis of the bylaws, not on the policies. So I had called originally just to understand the difference between the bylaws and the policies, because that had become a point of contention at past planning committee meetings. And the comment about exceptionality was related to the bylaws, that the bylaws are there to protect residents. So the person that I spoke to encouraged me to think about it in a slightly different way, as opposed to what's allowed for the developer, to think about it as what is promised to me as a resident of Truro, of the town of Truro, in the bylaws. We didn't really discuss the policies because, as they correctly said, there's a huge amount of opportunity for interpretation. So the conversation was more focused on the bylaws, that if the town was going to do something that was in direct contravention of a bylaw, that they would expect that there would be an exceptional reason for that, as opposed to the policies, which I understand are a little bit less rigid.
I'll let the counselor, the solicitor, respond to that. But we consider both, of course. The policies, they're the sort of the overhang, over umbrella of what we're trying to achieve here, and then specifically the bylaws. So I'll let him answer that. But we consider both, of course. Yeah.
In terms of the bylaws, and again, I'll defer to planning on this, but I don't think that there's anything in this proposal that planning has identified that would violate a bylaw, given that this proposal is allowed to be considered by way of development agreement. The strict application of the requirements in the land use bylaw, for the most part, don't apply.
Thank you. It is useful to note too that where it doesn't meet the bylaw requirements, those have been noted in the report. It is also a point that we should make note of too.
Make that point regarding the bylaws and development agreement.
Yeah, well, so there's a couple things. I'm going to make two separate points that might be long-winded. I'm sorry, but each of the zones in the town's land use bylaw, they permit a wide range of uses. Residential, there are always 3 different kinds of residential. There's as of right residential, which you can build with a building and development permit. There is residential, which has a little bit more density, and I'm going to use urban corridor for an example because that's where we're talking about now. So then you can do it as a conditional use or a site plan approval. That is an additional planning process that is handled. It's more rigorous and there are more things applied to it. And then there's residential that has more density that has to be considered by development agreement. Now, it allows, I think there is some confusion for people who don't do this as their job or deal with it every day like we do, but it's hard when these applications come forward because it looks like council's, and it's been said in the past that council's ignoring their own requirements in the land use bylaw. Well, the land use bylaw is clear that council has the ability to consider it as long as it goes through that planning process, which is the development agreement process. And my second point, which I mentioned, the as of right development criteria, if you were to come in with a building permit, you would be able to cover 50% of your lot as of right with whatever building you're doing, as long as you meet the required setbacks. You would also be able to have 75% impermeable surface with a building permit. And your setbacks would be less than they are being applied to this larger building. So and that could just be somebody's home, but we're talking about a larger building that has 44 units, therefore, council has said, when they develop the municipal planning strategy and in consideration of the creation of the land use bylaw and all the applicable requirements, that when these larger developments come to the town's planning office, that they want to have a say in it. They have a say via the process of the development agreement and going through planning advisory committee for multiple times and having that feedback and being refined over time, and then council makes that decision.
Right. And is it true if I said this, is that when we consider a development agreement, we're not bound to the bylaws. In fact, the bylaws in that particular zoning, I just use them as to see how far off we are from as of right in consideration, because the bylaws are put in as a safety to the neighborhood, et cetera, and to other landholders in the area. So I use them. We don't have to build according to any development agreement, but I certainly use them. And in this case, we've already said that this comes very close to as of right. So, that's why you probably heard that.
And to your point, Deputy Mayor, I just want to draw attention to policy number IM24. It does say it is a policy of council when evaluating these applications to have regard for any land use regulations and zoning requirements that apply to as of right development.
Well, thank you very much. And I want to thank you for an excellent presentation, a well-thought-out presentation. So it challenged me, so I want to thank you for that. Yeah, thank you. Is there anybody else that'd like to speak from the gallery?
I just have a quick question.
Yes, could you just come to the mic, sir, and just introduce yourself, just for the record?
Sure.
Thank you very much. Yeah, if it's red, it's different. If it's
Okay.
red, it's on. If it's green,
Okay.
it's not.
Yeah, just a quick question regarding the height. Obviously, we've established that they take the mean height of the roof.
Right.
But when we look at the front plan or front elevation, we can see the elevator overrun, for example, which is higher than the roof span.
Okay.
Does that not come into it at all?
You're correct. There is an exceptional, or it's a clause that says excluding elevator overruns or any kind of mechanical machinery that is required to be roof mounted. It's not considered.
Right. So again, there's lots of exclusions that benefit the development. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your question. Okay. Is there any other questions from the gallery? Yes, come on down, please. Don't be shy. If you have a question, please come down. I just ask that if the question's already been asked or the point is being made, that, that you consider that before you speak.
Good evening. I'm Sarah Boucher. I live directly west in the Century Home right next to 373. We've been residents of Truro for 11 years. We like Truro. We raised our family here. We love the parks. We love the accessibility to beaches. We chose Truro because it's quiet. It's not Halifax. It doesn't have lots of traffic. It has trees, it has open spaces, and it doesn't have high rises. There are a variety of developments in recent times in Truro that are 3 stories. They house lots of people. Mm-hmm. I don't believe this is a benefit to the neighborhood. I believe the Poirier's son put it best. Why should the needs of one person supersede all of the people who have enjoyed this neighborhood for a combined, I don't know, probably over 100 years? Mm. The people on Hingley, the people on Churchill, the people on George, and the people on Roby all enjoy this neighborhood and the benefits. I don't believe a pickleball court and a bunch of asphalt for a parking garage is going to benefit anybody in the neighborhood. It's going to put a few more tax dollars in the municipal coffers, and there's no community gardens like Ian McGrath proposed. There's no electrical charging for EV drivers. Maybe there will be. There is the mature trees all coming down. These are beautiful, huge trees that provide shade and provide beauty in our neighborhood. It's an interesting building. I just don't think it's in the right place. I think a much more conservative amount of apartments would be welcome. The majority of them are single apartments. I think they'll be used for people commuting to other places for work. There's only 4 or 5, how many 3-bedroom units? These are the families, right? These are the families that will go to elementary school, that'll go to CEC, that'll use the dog park. The people that are here, it's just to benefit one person. And it's really disappointing because we've enjoyed our gardens. We've enjoyed the grapevine that encircles our entire property. These people on the first floor will be able to reach out and pick the grapes off of our grapevine. We enjoy the space with our dogs and our children. My daughters play volleyball and soccer. Now we're going to have spectators, and that's weird. Mitchell Sanford and his family have invested a boatload of money into upgrading their house and the whole yard, and now their privacy is gone. They're the future of Truro. They have 2 little kids. They have a 3-year-old and a baby. And now they have how many pairs of eyes all watching everything they do in their backyard if this potentially comes. So it will change the neighborhood. It will affect lots of people, and I don't think any of these neighbors will be benefited by a pickleball court and less absorption of rainwater and stormwater and all that stuff. So yeah, I also just had a few comments about the landlord. Allison Graham was interested to know that Mr. Johnson is also the owner of the building and landlord, current landlord. My neighbor Joanna Wolf and her son lived there recently. They had to leave prematurely because the landlord decided it was okay to have people in there with a dangerous dog. The dog attacked her 2 dogs. She stepped in. She's in her early 70s. She ended up with stitches all in her hand. And this dog was permitted to stay. The previous tenants in the upstairs unit, there's 2 units.
So I'm just going to have to ask
Yep.
you to stop about that because it's not relevant to this. You know.
Oh, I'm just talking about the character of the person you're choosing to have a benefit in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
The roof tarp is hideous. It's an eyesore.
Okay.
The previous tenants, last comment,
Okay.
they left prematurely because Mr. Johnson chose not to repair the roof, and they left because of the water leaking into the apartment.
Right.
So this is the gentleman that is proposing this structure.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to
Thank you for your time.
And thank you for your comments, very much so.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else who has a comment? Yes, would you please come down, just introduce yourself? Let me see, I've gone blank here.
We're good now?
Yes, you are.
Okay. My name is Carol Tanner. I'm a retired teacher, 37 years around Truro. And I bring that up simply because I have a lot of experience with empathy, and I look at all of you, and you all need to go home and do some self-care pretty soon because you've had a really long day. And I know how exhausting the process is for all of you because I've been on that side of the desk many times with hundreds and thousands of parents and staff. So the only concern I have that I haven't heard tonight is where the water's going. My husband is an agricultural irrigation consultant. He's the only one in the Maritimes. So he has literally drained, excuse me, I'm nervous. He's drained millions of feet of our 3 provinces, millions. He's the only one that does it. He's gone extremely long hours to work, and I only share that because our water table will be affected hugely by development that goes under the ground, so close to the floodplain. Our son lives right behind this building on Churchill. He's a civil engineer who has experience across Canada with everything from natural gas pipelines to bridges, and I bring that up because his water quality will be affected by a building, and no one here tonight has told me where the water's going, where it's draining. Is it going into Riley Tanner's backyard? Hard to say because no one has said one word about where that water's going.
Okay, well, thank you for the question.
Yep.
It's a question, and so maybe the town planning, I do believe that the the stormwater management study has been completed, is that correct?
No, it's not been provided at this time.
It is not provided.
And that's what I heard.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
So it will be done, it'll be done by a certified engineer, not only by a certified engineer, but it'll also be checked by the town engineer as well.
Okay.
So, yeah, the process involves that, and yeah. so
It'll be
we'll
interesting to
prep
see where it drains.
Yes, it will.
Hopefully not into my son's backyard.
Well, it won't, because no more water will leave the site in the future.
Yeah.
It leaves the site now.
Yeah, and I know a lot about surveying land. I watched my husband do thousands of maps about surveying farmers' fields that are worth millions of dollars,
Right,
multi-million.
right.
I'm concerned about putting cars down underneath there when CEC and everything around it floods. And, you know, we live in a floodplain. We know what Truro's like, right? So that's my only concern, is that I didn't hear where the water was going. And as an irrigation consultant's wife,
Right.
I have a big concern with that.
And all of that is looked at.
Okay.
Okay, so.
Okay, good. I'll be curious to see I'll be curious to read it, and I'll also be curious to see where the outlets are.
Okay,
And if you speak to Eastern Drainage, you'll learn all about outlets.
right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, if there's is there any other questions for the developer? Oh, Mr. McGrath, one moment, please. Go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll go easy on you, as I know you're not in that chair very often. Regarding the stormwater management plan, I just wanted to read from the recommendation by staff that the last line reading, subject to the developer submitting a stormwater management plan and landscaping plan to the town. Now, as you had mentioned, that has to be done by a licensed engineer, stamped, all that stuff is going to be reviewed by the town engineer. I don't know, we don't have Mr. Browning here, but I don't know if anybody sitting over in the senior staff box can speak to the requirements of a stormwater management plan.
Mr. Ben certainly can do that.
Mr. Bent, would you be so kind as to talk about, as a deputy mayor mentioned, that no more water should be leaving the property post-construction as pre-construction? Can you go into a little bit more detail on that for us?
Yep. So yeah, they are required to balance the pre and post runoff and compare a variety of rainfall events between 1 in 10 up to 1 in 100. And they have to be balanced, and any additional runoff has to be contained within the site and slowly distributed over time. And that would be connected into the stormwater system out on Roby Street.
Right, and so then who is doing the measurements of what the current runoff is versus the post runoff?
So their consultant will do that, and then it'll be evaluated by our department.
Okay, and so all of that has to be approved by town staff before it is allowed to happen. Let's say, hypothetically, that at some point post-construction, our town staff are investigating and they say, oh, you are actually, more water is coming off the property now than before. What are the steps to address that?
So before they can get final approval after the build and occupancy, it has to be checked by an engineer, the engineer that did the stormwater design. They have to verify that it was built to that standard so that it maintains, so that we know that that was what was built. And then if anything happens over the future or whatever and things are running off, we would evaluate it at that time. But they're based on climate change and things like that. If those are the factors, that wouldn't be the responsibility of the.
All right, so any responsible developer would likely be trying to go above and beyond what is current, in the expectation that rainfall events are going to get more severe and more frequent, potentially. Everything gets more severe, the droughts, the rain, everything. And I see a microphone going up to somebody's mouth. Perhaps one of the gentlemen sitting there wants to have a word.
Certainly. So there'll also be a grading plan that's done to ensure that, and that's one of the items that would be used, as well as a stormwater management plan, to verify and do a double check that we are meeting those requirements. And then we would be doing that at the end as there's a location certificate and such for the building as well. So there's a few checks and balances as the building is built, that it is meeting what it has said it would do in the plans.
So is that referred to as the occupancy permit? Is that correct?
I think it comes at that stage, but maybe Carla can speak to that better than me.
It can actually be as soon as that grading is completed.
Okay.
Then we would submit that plan. Lot certificate can sometimes occur when just the foundation is in, as that's what's located on the site to ensure that the building is located as positioned.
Okay, that's very helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Councillor Talbot, please.
Yeah, I personally think we could have answered your question much more directly. The developer is not permitted to allow drainage from his property onto yours. And if that happens, it has to be rectified, period.
By the developer. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, if you'd like to come down to the microphone if you have a question. The mic is live, so just introduce yourself and then ask your
Marie
question.
Nagel,
Hi.
George Street.
Hi.
I'm just concerned that once it's built and things start to go wrong, what recourse is there for the neighborhood?
Well,
Like I said, if the sewer system backs up into all our sewers because there's so much sewage and water coming from this building and the whole line can't accommodate it,
well,
who pays for the damage to our homes?
Well-
If there is any, I'm not saying there will be, but should there be? It's an old neighborhood. My family's been in the neighborhood more than 60 years.
so well, quickly, we'll ask the engineer to address that as far as, you know, the danger of any sewage, et cetera. And then we'll ask Mr. Dolter to comment on it.
So my only comment there would be that the capacity of the sewer is evaluated, and there is capacity in the sewer on Roby Street to handle this development. So the sewer backing up as a result of these added units isn't a concern.
Yeah. Yeah, and similar to obviously the stormwater isn't tied into the sewer system, they're completely separate systems. So if we get excessive water, if there is water coming off the site though, and it doesn't meet the requirements of what the stormwater management presented, then the developer will be required to correct that. So if there's additional water that would be coming off that isn't being properly
What
dealt
would I
with,
have to do to get that done?
well, you would submit a complaint back in through the town, and the town would contact the developer, and we'd have the necessary corrections taken.
Because it is an old community.
Yes.
And I mean, like I said, some of those, my home is over 85 years old, as are my neighbors. So there's some pretty old pipes in the ground there.
Right. And that's all taken into consideration, ma'am. Yeah. And I think that hopefully that's giving you some peace of mind. The system can hold this development as an additional sewage charge. Absolutely, yeah. The engineer said it could, yeah. Okay?
And just another comment, just in regards to the online survey,
Yes.
it says that about 50% approve.
Yeah.
I'd just like to make the observation that the average age of the neighborhood is somewhere between 70 and 75. There's 5 people that are over 90 in the neighborhood.
Right.
They don't do online.
Right.
They did sign the petition. I don't know if you got a copy of
Yeah,
it.
we did. Thank you.
So they
Yeah.
did sign the petition.
Right.
And based on the petition and the number that signed it, it seems, I don't know how they come up with 50% thought it was okay.
Right.
Because the majority of people signed the petition not wanting it.
Okay. Ms. Conley, can you just address that concern?
Certainly. So yes, you're correct that the online survey results were as presented. It was also noted that there is a mail out that's typical for all of our development agreement applications, that anybody who lives within 150 meters of a subject development site receives a direct letter to their mailbox notifying them that an application is being considered by the town's planning advisory committee and will be considered by council, and that they are invited to submit any comments they may have or reach out to the planning department for more information. So all of your neighbors hopefully received one of those letters. We did send them out. I have the number. There were 109 mailouts to 126 properties that were sent out directly to residents of the area. We did receive some letters back, which were all forwarded to council if we did receive them. Mostly we got them by email. I don't believe, other than the petition, that we received any by mail. Otherwise, they would have been circulated. And we do, in addition to that, also place development application notice boards. They're billboards or 2x3 notice signs. Sorry, I missed my words here. But they're always placed on the sites of where the potential developments are being proposed. And those also serve as a way to notify residents that, hey, this site is being considered for development. Please check out our website, but here's just a little bit of information about it. And for more information, contact the planning department. So there are different ways that we do get the information, or endeavor to get the information out to all residents that could be
Again,
have a concern.
Make the observation that in my neighborhood, people are older and
Right.
aren't on to all these modern ways
Right.
of communicating.
That's always an issue, you know. We've lost
Yeah.
our local paper,
So,
right?
The petition, when people went door to door, I think there was one person who only one who said, no, I'm not going to sign it
Right.
because I want it.
Okay.
So that's all, I mean.
It's a valid point.
Older neighborhood with older people who don't do online stuff and don't walk the neighborhood necessarily to find out what's going on.
Right.
So,
Well, I want to thank you for that. I think we're aware of that and are sensitive to that.
yeah.
And I saw the petition and I read the names, so I want you to I'm aware of that. And that is an issue. It always is an issue, collecting information from the public.
Okay.
And today, particularly when a lot of people aren't on the internet, they don't go on Facebook, et cetera, to get information. Right,
Never been on any of those sites myself.
right. So social media, not everybody uses social media, yeah, so.
If I didn't have
It's an
something
issue.
that lets me know what's going on in
Right.
the world, I wouldn't know.
Right, yeah. So thank you very much for your
Okay,
comments.
thanks a lot.
Okay, so we're moving towards closing this public hearing. And in order to do that, I have to ask the question 3 times. And so this gives you an opportunity, though. And the question is, are there any other questions? This is the first reading. Are there any other questions? Yes. Yes, you do.
I think it's been said that the transparency of the survey was a little bit in question. You didn't have to say that you were within 150 meters or actually a resident of the neighborhood to participate in the survey. So do we have any data on the 70 or so, 70 or plus people?
It's Ms. Tanner, is that correct?
Sorry?
You're Carol Tanner?
Carol Tanner's my friend. Her son lives on Churchill. Sarah and Mario Fortunato, Sarah Boucher and Mario Fortunato live directly beside 373.
Okay.
Yeah. So there were 70-some respondents to the survey, and I just wonder what percentage of them actually live in the neighborhood?
Okay.
Is that possible to find out?
Do you know that, Ms. Conley?
We don't actually, while we do get the data and people do have the ability to put in their address, we don't have the ability to fact check that. So we don't, people could make up an address. They could say they live in town where they don't live in town.
So
or
what
vice versa.
validity is the survey then, if we don't know where these people live?
We take more of the outlook, or we look at it like if you take the time out of your day to submit a response to an online survey in Truro, then you have a vested interest and we would be willing to hear what you have to say about it.
Or you have a vested interest in the development? Just making a point.
Point is a valid point and heard, so thank you very much. This is the second reading. Are there any other questions for the developer or the town planning department? Okay.
Hi. You mentioned about it's on your website.
Yes.
And I actually looked a few days ago. I thought, oh yeah, I'll just see what the development. It wouldn't load, and it said wait. And I waited. I did it again. I did it again. It didn't load. It has never loaded. So even if it is online, it doesn't seem to work. So, I couldn't look at other developments boards that I'd seen around town to see, oh, what's going on there? And that was only 2 days ago, and I tried
That's
them.
fine. I've never had a problem. Do you want to address that? Planning department, please.
I mean, we're running, our Director Fox is actually looking at it right now. It seems to be working fine for him. I'm not sure what the confusion was with that or what the issue was online. I apologize. Again, we encourage anybody who has any questions to contact the department directly. We can print you off a copy of all of the whatever is on the website. We can give you a paper copy of that, mail it to you, give it to you directly. That's fine. We have been able to successfully open the document, so I can't really speak to your specific concern.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, well, thank you, sir. This is my third and final ask. Any further questions?
Is this where I can talk?
No. Not yet. Councillor Talbot, I know you got lots to say, and I'm looking forward to it. But this is not the time right now. We'll have comments following the reading of the motion. So this is my third and final ask regarding any questions from the gallery or from the council. Okay, I declare this hearing for 373 Roby Street is now closed. Okay, I'm now reconvening the public meeting for Monday, January the 12th, 2026 at 7:58 p.m. Item 4E on our agenda, requests a decision for 373 Roby Street. Mr. Dolter, if you would please read the motion.
So for 373 Roby Street Development Agreement, the application by Lennox Development Limited to enter into a development agreement on land including 373 Roby Street, and that's PID number 201-47070, to permit a 4-story building containing up to 44 residential dwelling units and a mixture of below and at-grade parking. This request was reviewed by the town's Planning Advisory Committee at their October and November 2025 meetings. PAC recommended council enter into a development agreement with the applicant. So, Mr. Deputy Mayor, the proposed motion is, be it resolved that council approve the request to enter into a development agreement to permit a 4-story multi-unit residential development consisting of up to 44 units and 36 parking spaces on lands at 373 Roby Street. And again, that's PID 201-47070, subject to the developer submitting and receiving approval for a stormwater management plan and a landscaping plan.
I'm looking for someone to support that motion. Mr. Fleming, and a seconder, Mr. McGrath. Okay, so the motion is now on the floor, and we're open for discussion. Go ahead.
Yes, I don't want to come across as being flippant or kind of just saying the community input doesn't matter, but I do have to go back to the fact that I think this issue is more of a zoning issue, and I've had a number of calls from residents. I'm a Ward 1 counselor, so I do represent the area, and I've had the conversation. We went through a year of a pretty intense planning exercise, and we had charts, and the director of planning was there, and we laid it all out, and we broke people out into small groups, and we said, here are the areas in town where we want to increase diversification. And at the end of the day, we didn't get any complaints from that area. This planning was put in place, and for me personally now, I'm going to find it very difficult not to support it based on the fact that the rezoning did occur. There was not a lot of objections to the increased diversification, and the developer is asked to make application, tick off the boxes, and that's been done. Most of the boxes have been ticked off. There are still a few areas of contention, but by and large, they've been ticked off, and I would find it awful difficult, given the information I have now and the research that I've done, not to support the application.
Thank you, Councillor Talbot. Any other comments? Councillor Graham.
I have one question and one comment. My question, again, is through you to our solicitor. We have an even number of councillors who are eligible to vote this evening. What happens if we're split?
Okay, so
evenly split.
If there's a tie vote on council, then the motion that's before council fails.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. I do not intend to support the motion this evening. I'd like to cite policy IM 22, which I've cited previously, members of the gallery have cited, and I will just reiterate my respect for our planning department, my appreciation for the work that has been done by our developers, the consultation process and the planning advisory committee process has been very enjoyable. The working relationship has been wonderful. However, I must respectfully disagree with our planning department in that I don't agree that the development is at all compatible with the neighborhood. I don't believe it's compatible with the adjacent structures in the neighborhood in terms of height, scale, or lot coverage. And when it comes to IM22, the thing that gives me the most pause, as described by our planner Connolly, is the densification. And currently, we're at 3.5 to 40 people per hectare, and this development is at 183 per hectare. And I just don't believe that that is compatible. The other reason that I will not be supporting the motion again is because of policy UC10, when it talks about whether or not the development complements or enhances the established and intact neighborhood and streetscape. And I don't think this will do anything at all to enhance the lives of the residents in that area. So I will be voting against the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Graham. Go ahead, Councillor McGrath.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I have a question for the Planning Department with regards to the Chignecto Central Regional Center for Education. I know we would have sent that to them for their comments. I don't see anything in the report that they have responded. Did they respond to this request for review of the development application?
Actually, they did, and I apologize. I didn't include that, but their response was, do you have any idea of what the timing of the development start date would be? And we don't have that necessarily. I'd said I would get back to them when we have the if council agrees to enter into a development agreement, what those timelines would look like. But their only response, which is typical of them, is they just use that data to plan for future school space capacity issues that they may or may not have. Pardon me? Staffing, correct, right. So it's they were wondering about timing of when the construction might start.
Yeah, the teacher would know, I assume, yeah. So that is interesting, because it's one of the things that I didn't see in there.
Excuse me.
You okay? When we talk about some of the land use bylaws that are not met, but we also have a number that are, right? And I know that this is a long report. I don't know how many 70-page report that we're going through. Is there a shorter list of these are the land use bylaws that are not met, that are called out in a smaller subsection? Do you have that there? Because I know there's a lot that are met. The parking requirements exceed what is there. There's some other things that exceed what is there. The height is very close. Some of those side setbacks, half a meter here, half a meter there. Do we have a condensed list of just here's what's out of compliance, I guess?
We don't do that. They're more listed in a chronological order, so they're or numerical order. So they're not called out specifically on where they don't meet that information. You would have to read each one.
Right. Okay. And I've been through all of it, and I really should have made my notes as I was going. That was on me. I do have a question for the developers. When we were talking about, the school board says, what is our expected timeline if this is approved? What is your expected timeline?
Councilor McGrath, good question. There's a lot of variables. It's hard to say exactly when, but it would be intended to be within 12 to 24 months.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Talbot. Sorry, McGrath. I've come to appreciate the mayor tonight. This is like Command Central, and it takes more than one time to know which buttons to push and et cetera. So I appreciate the mayor. Oh, there you are, Councillor Brar.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I struggle with this one. As much as I think it's a great development, I do struggle with the fact that it is much too large for that property. And I've always believed that we need to keep our neighborhoods intact with families, single family dwellings, because we are building. And I believe we need to keep homes intact. And I guess for that reason, because of policy IM 22, I won't be voting for it.
Thank you very much, Councillor Pryor. Okay. Any other further discussion or comments? I have one, and that's regards to when you look at those, and I think the planner referred to them as wings or something anyways, they're for the balconies, right? And they're at a certain angle. And someone brought up during the advisory meetings, they said they were facing in the direction of south facing north, and the sun, you know, rises in the east and is sort of on this way. And these, did you follow me? And these fenders are sort of like this. And they thought it would be better to put them the opposite direction. And I never heard a good answer from the architect on that, so I'm looking for that now. If you could just address that.
Yeah, so the south-facing windows in most buildings are actually going to have the blinds pulled during the day, in most locations. So the very bright light is going to affect people. If it was an office building, it would be affecting someone being able to look at their screen. In fact, I put up a blind today.
Oh, I see, okay.
In a location that was south-facing. So north light is preferred by artists, painters, versus a south or a moving light. So we also located, like the direction of these was specifically designed to avoid the direct adjacent neighbors.
Right.
And it then has that added benefit of not
Right.
pouring that sunlight into those spaces that would be glaring.
Right. The other comment, I do have a comment, and it's about lighting in the project. And I know when I read through the package that the town has certain bylaws in regards to, and it said that you would be following those bylaws, and they're cut-off light bylaws. In other words, you can't have fixtures that are going like this. They have to go like this.
Yes.
But I'm concerned about that as well, in that I think you should be very sensitive. If this goes forward, I think the project needs to be very sensitive in regards to lighting, and that you don't have light pollution entering onto other people's properties. In other words, I'm washing my dishes. I don't want to see a bright light, you know, right in my face, you know, right? And you can do that. There's many ways. I don't have to tell you your trade. There's many ways that you can do that so that, you know, whether they're recessed under the eaves or whatever, to allow for lighting on the property, but that doesn't leave the property. And I think that that's, if this building goes forward, it's about the size and nature that it, you know, right?
Yeah, and that is a lighting strategy that we use on the majority of our projects, in the sense that we are trying to light for safety, not for like entertainment or going beyond what the intended need is. So at this site, there would be no reason to have building lighting that was placed up high to then spray down onto the yard below. It would be, if anything, lighting a walkway, so then the lights would be set at the height that would do that adequately within its own property line. We also have illustrated that there would be a 6-foot fence, one, so that they're not taking grapes off of someone else's vines, but you know, there is that old analogy that fences do protect everyone's.
Sure, good fences make good neighbors.
Yeah, in those kinds of spaces, and it just very much defines the area.
Right. And I just finally, this is my final comment. This will be my final comment before I call for a vote on this. Does anybody else on council have a comment before I make my final comment? My final comment is this, is that it's the zoning, I think. When I look at this project, and I've thought hard about it, and I've looked at all the information, and when I look at it, I think your problem, as Councillor Talbot said, is the zoning. You know, the zoning, you're looking at the conflict of urban corridor meets general residential. And you're going to have a conflict. One's high density, one is low density. And the issue is zoning. That's the issue. And in this particular property, The issue is that zoning is not just one piece of property that's sort of, 170 feet deep. It's not 170 feet deep. It goes all the way back, with affecting the rears of all those properties, right? So it's unusual in that, those conflicts are exaggerated in this time. This is how I see it, because of the fact that, it goes from Roby Street back, right? And it's a high density and a low density. So that's where the conflict is. That's what I see. And so, the trouble is that to go to the review board, to be reviewed outside in a third-party review, it cannot be appropriate for the zoning that it's in. And this building is appropriate for the zoning that it's in. So it makes it very difficult. That's what, I know you don't agree with me, but that's my comment, okay? So that's my comment. And we're going to go to a vote. And what I'm going to do when I call the vote, what I'm going to do is I'm going to call the vote out by counselor. And so people are so they know who voted for what. I think it's only fair. So I'm going to start, is someone want to call the question, please? Question's been called, and I'd just like Councillor Talbot, are you in support of the motion for the development of 373 Roby Street? Yes or no?
Yes, sir, for the reasons stated.
Thank you. Councillor Graham, are you in support of the motion for the development of 373 Roby Street? Yes or no?
No.
Thank you. Councillor Fleming, are you in support of the motion for the development for 373 Roby Street? Yes or no?
Yes.
Councillor McGrath, are you in support of the motion for the development for 373 Roby Street? Yes or no?
Yes.
Councillor Graham, are you in support of the motion for the development?
Already got Graham.
As much as I'd like to vote twice, I don't think I'm permitted to.
It's just you.
No, it's not. It's Councillor Pryor. Are you in support of the motion for the development of 373 Roby Street? Yes or no?
No.
The yeses have it. Do I need to vote?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, but it doesn't matter because it's already 3-2. So the yeses have it in the count of for yes, 1, 2, 3, 4. Noes are 1, 2. So 4-2 in favor of the motion. The motion passes.
So just so everybody's aware, there is a 14-day appeal period. That can be, I'm sure you're aware, based on the conversations you've had. So again, it's subject to appeal, and once that period is gone through, we'll go through the process if an appeal is put forward.
I think Mayor Hinton, if she's around, she would like to come back.
She's here.
I'd like to thank you all for coming. It's a difficult thing, and I realize that, but thank you for coming. Okay?
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. I want to sincerely thank everyone who attended this evening and for those who spoke. These are never easy, as you can appreciate. And for the work for all council puts into it, and for the planning staff and all the neighbors for their passion. We're now at the end of our public council agenda. I want to thank everyone, as I said, for today, earlier, and for this evening. Thank you to our solicitor, who worked very hard today, to our CIO. And our next public council meeting is Monday, February the 2nd at 1 p.m. Please continue to be kind to each other and to be kind to our town. The January 12, 2026 Truro Town Council meeting is adjourned at 8:18 p.m. Thank you and safe travels.